Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it may be that you're watching this. I'd like to welcome you back into the studio. So yesterday, we went over the forms for the nose for this portrait painting. Now remember, this is just one segment of a larger painting that we're working on. So I took quite a bit of time with the nose, and with my older videos, I didn't really explain everything as much as I would like to, so that's why I'm kind of splitting these videos up into individual days for each feature. So now we're moving on to the mouth. And I know that the mouth is an area that can give a lot of artists some trouble. So let me just recap with what we have for the mouth right now. Right now the mouth is in 2D. So we're going to switch from two-dimensional thinking to three-dimensional thinking with the mouth. So let's remember that the mouth was blocked in earlier in the transfer drawing and in the poster image. So what you're looking at is just basically the simple shape for the mouth. And now we're going to build on top of this. So let's start off with the darkest darks. So we're going to start off right about here. Corner of one side of the mouth, corner of the other side of the mouth. The middle is already indicated, the top middle is indicated, and the bottom middle is indicated. We can make this a little darker. Something about like that. So now, just like you're seeing the value scale on the palette, we're going to gradate some of the values on the lips. So let's look at each segment at a time. So for instance, I'm going to go ahead and just darken this little accent once more. And I'm going to go in with another brush just to clarify that edge a little better. Alright, so we're going to add a smooth gradation of tone for the upper lip. So it's getting a little bit lighter as we move away from this dark accent. And it's going to get lighter and lighter as we approach the top middle of the upper lip. So right around here. It's going to start to get a little lighter. And this plane change, the plane changes that are lighter are because their planes are facing the light a little bit more, meaning the angle of this plane here is closer to being perpendicular to the light source, whereas this one is closer to being parallel to the light source. When you're completely parallel to the light source, then you are in shadow. When you're perpendicular to the light source, you're in full light. Or sorry, when the angle of your plane is closer to being perpendicular, then you're in full light. I think that's what I said. So let's go ahead and soften this edge here. So we're going to soften it with an intermediate value. So to get the illusion of form, the illusion of a three-dimensional object in two-dimensional space, such as this surface we're painting on, it's really down to the values and the edges. So this edge is soft, and this edge we're going to make a little sharper. And if you're new to this channel and you want to know exactly what materials I'm using, you can always go ahead and scroll down to the description box below, and all of that information will be typed up for you. Now let's go ahead and create a smooth transition into this corner of the mouth. And the way we're doing that is basically with a very soft brush. We're using a synthetic brush. Very soft brush. Get these clean transitions. See how simple that is? Now we're going to move on to the lower lip, and we're going to look at the side plane of the lip. So this plane right here is going to be a little darker because it's facing the light a little bit less. So the idea of a plane is, again, it's a conceptualization of a two-dimensional sheet in space that has a very specific angle in relation to the light source. Meaning this plane here is just getting darker because it's closer to parallel to the light source than, say, this area. Let's put in a little intermediate value change. Now in yesterday's video we did the same thing with the nose, but the mouth also has a little bit of a challenge when it comes to subforms. So for instance, remember we chopped a little plane here? Now there's going to be a subform, meaning that on this form that we painted, there is a lighter plane right over here. But that plane is a subform because it's a form existing basically in the same angle as a larger form, meaning that that light is going to be darker than this light, which it already is, I think. And then of course it'll get much lighter around here, and then darker as the lips move in towards the accent. Now we're going to look at the plane change here on the other side. So it's going to get a little darker here. Now when working from photo reference, the photograph, it's really good at conveying information, but it oftentimes will flatten out images. So we have to really think about the planes in space and not so much trying to copy the photograph. So for instance, this plane here is actually facing the light a little less than this plane here, simply because the light is coming in at this angle. So it's actually going to be a little darker here. That is, this plane is going to be a little darker. So this plane is going to be a little darker relative to that plane. And see how with very few value changes onto the light and dark arrangement that we had already established before, we're really starting to get the illusion of form. Let's go ahead and make this a little softer. Now, we see a very graceful curve here for the lips. It's almost like an elongated M. See that? It's like an elongated M. And the bottom is usually an elongated W, but I don't really see it that way. So if I don't see it, then I won't paint it. It's a little more flat here. And then of course it'll get darker as the planes move away from the light. See how simple it is to create the illusion of form on the lips? And how long is this taking us? Not really that long to render the form. So if it so happens that the lips are in the wrong place, which oftentimes is the case for me, it's not that difficult to move it. So now the lips have kind of highlights all over the place. So that means that the model probably has chapstick on, I don't know, lip something, I don't know, the things that people put on their lips, to lipstick or something. I don't think there's lipstick, it's probably just chapstick or something. But anyway, we have to think about the light coming from a particular angle, hitting the planes, and where would it hit the plane for the bottom lip? first. Which area would be most perpendicular? Probably be around here. So ignoring those highlights being scattered everywhere, we're really conceptualizing the form. And of course, I'm not going to make her lips completely matte. Her lips do have some shimmer to them, so we'll put some little specks of highlights, but we'll let this be the predominant highlight, just to kind of further emphasize the form. And the next thing we would want to look at is a plane we can compare to this one, which will be another light plane over here. Now there's a connection between this point and the top middle portion of the bottom of the nose. The root of the nose right here, drop a vertical there. Would be a little more light right there. And that should help to sharpen the edge even more. So remember, edges. Sharper here, softer there, and it should be even softer there, but we didn't really get to that yet. So let's go ahead and soften with an intermediate value. And then tomorrow we'll get into the cheekbone structure. And that should finish up the form pass for the underpainting of the face. And then I have a color study idea. So once we're ready to transition into color, we'll do a color study to really kind of get acclimated to the color scheme that we'll use. So we're really taking this painting one step at a time. No need to rush here. The world is already fast-paced enough. Let's go ahead, get a darker dark. So I'm going to use a little bit of Neo McGilp to thin out the paint. Hope I mentioned this already. So the colors that I'm using are Williamsburg Flake White and Winsor and Newton Raw Umber. Just pushing that dark a little bit. The nice thing about raw umber as well as burnt umber is that it doesn't quite get as dark as ivory black. Like I said yesterday and the day before, I really like to compress the value range for the underpainting so that when we build onto this with color, we have yet a whole nother range of value at our fingertips. Just going to soften this a little bit. See how simple it is? Softening a little bit. So it's softer around here, but sharper towards the accent. This accent here. So with the little intermediate value, let's go ahead and soften, or sorry, sharpen this edge just a tiny bit. There's a fine line between sharp and soft. Wait, there's a fine line between sharp and kinda sharp, sorry. There's a huge line between sharp and soft. But anyway, so this is a very kind of a complex edge. I know I don't usually talk about edges very often. I would like to. I'm going to try to talk about edge a little more. So here's a sharp edge, and this is a more complicated one right here that we're working on. So it is both sharp and soft at the same time. So the way that we're achieving that is just with these little intermediate values. And then why, you ask, why am I making this only slightly softer? And again, it's to pull focus towards this area. When you sharpen something, you inherently pull focus towards it. So I'm trying to pull focus away from this section, but not as much as, say, this area here. So I think that's going to be about it for the rendering of the lips. I know this is probably going to be one of the shortest of the videos, but again, I'm splitting up these videos into segments because I'm uploading these videos every single day, and I think it might be more beneficial to some folks to have, I don't know, somewhere between a 20-minute or a 15-minute video as opposed to hour-long videos every single day, because, I mean, who's going to have the time to watch those every single day? So I don't think so yet. Let's put in a little bit of a darker shape. Just want to clean up this transition. So there we go. It's a little cleaner. Don't worry, we're almost done. So let's go ahead and soften this. And again, the idea is to keep focusing on the form. All right, so we just soften that a little bit. I think that's a little better. All right, so now with that about wraps up what I'm going to do for the lips, for the rendering of form for the lips. And I just wanted to show you how simple it is to go from two-dimensional construct to a three-dimensional construct, all in monochrome. And in tomorrow's video, we're going to explore some of these structures for the cheekbones and the mandible. And that should about conclude the form for the underpainting of the portrait, and then we're going to go on into the hair, the clothing, and all of that stuff in this larger painting. So I really hope that this video helps you out. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again tomorrow.